Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our Meet the Mentors session. We have an incredible lineup of mentors and tutors with us today. And we're lucky because we get to hear a bit more about their journey and some of their experience, both in jewelry making and also in being on the diploma program. So whether you're already signed up and excited to go for September, or perhaps you're thinking about it and would like to know more about the people you'll be working with potentially. We always love hearing jewelers' journeys. I think every journey is inspiring because everyone is so different. And also getting kind of tips and advice on what's worked for other people always helps me to understand what's going to work for me a little bit better as well. So we have with us today the wonderful Kim Thomson. Hi, Kim, give us a wave.
Hi, everybody.
Yeah, we have the incredible Michael Milloy. Hi, Michael. Give us a wave. The wonderful Laura-Jayne. Hi, Laura-Jayne.
Hello.
And of course, the brilliant April Dace. Hi, April.
Hi, everyone.
And these guys mentor across the different diploma programs. But I think before we get into talking about diplomas, I'd love to just give a background for each of you guys. And I know that we could talk for an hour just about just one of your background. But in a nutshell, perhaps you could just explain a bit about how you came into jewelry making and your kind of brief story up until what you're doing now. So Kim, would you like to kick us off with a little info about you?
Sure. I think mine boils down to I was just really stubborn. So at school, I had undiagnosed ADHD and dyslexia and various learning differences. Because of that, I really, really struggled with school. And where I went to school, it was really restrictive in terms of what we can do. So in terms of art, which was one of the few things that I could actually get a good grade in, we were only allowed to paint and draw. And I got really bored during my A levels, decided I was doing silversmithing, obviously had no idea what I was doing, promptly failed my A level because of it. But art college tends to be portfolio based. So I went on to do a silversmithing degree, and I switched from graduating the lowest in my year at school to the highest in my year at university. And I think that just demonstrated the importance of finding the right thing for you, but the right environment and the right tutors to explain that information for. So certainly for me, and I know for most of the tutors, if not all of them at the Jewellers Academy, the focus is on helping you get the best results in the style that you like to learn and work. And my favorite thing is just finding workarounds and adaptations and different things people can do so we can get the results that you want to get.
I love that, Kim. And I think it's so relatable as well. I always remember at school art class, they were like, put your shoe on the table and draw it. And whoever did it well was good at art, and whoever didn't was bad. And I was like, that's an interesting test for like who's good at art for the rest of your life. But thankfully, there's a lot more spaces now where we can explore and be creative and understand that everyone is creative. Like we have loads of people. I remember when we had London Jewelry School, we had loads of like accountants come after work and be like, I just need to make stuff and do something different. And I love this kind of moving away from are you creative or not, and just what do you want to do and like go for it. And yeah, you're brilliant at helping students to adapt and adjust and feel really comfortable with whoever they are and however they're coming to it, because we do things differently, don't we? And there's not one way to do something. There's probably 50 bajillion. So brilliant. Thank you for sharing. And Michael, I know you've had a long career in jewelry. It's ongoing. Tell us a little bit in a nutshell, how you came in and what you do now.
I mean, like Kim, I went to Art Foundation, and then I was doing blacksmithing actually at Art Foundation, but then work was getting smaller and smaller, and the tutor said, "I think you're becoming a jeweler," and then went to jewelry college at Epsom, and then from Epsom, I went to study with my tutor for about 10 years. It was like a little mini apprenticeship, and then started doing my own kind of work. But in that 10 years, I learned so much because we were making things from armor for TV, furniture, fine jewelry, fashion jewelry, so right across the board. And then I started developing my own stuff for kind of catwalk and my own kind of collections like that, and which I've sold in kind of Harrods and Goldsmith and Janet Fitch and all that sort of stuff. And now I do a lot of stuff for TV, films and things like that. So make props and things like that.
Yeah, you've probably seen some of Michael's work without realizing it on Netflix and various other places, which is really awesome. And I love hearing about your journey, Michael, because I feel like there's so many stories in there, if we had time to go into. And I love your focus on design. That's something that you bring to all of your students, I think, as well as the technical making, is thinking outside the box a bit more and moving away from having to do everything the same as everyone else. And that's such a great thing for us to be exposed to, is those new.
Yeah, I think, because jewelers have got so many different ways of making things. Like him saying, we always kind of gravitate to the way we kind of make the best, whether we're good at soldering or sweat soldering or riveting or cold connections or anything like that. We kind of gravitate towards what we enjoy doing. And I really encourage that. So I really encourage people to question what, how would I make that differently? What pathway would I go? So I really sort of push them as well.
Yeah, I love that. And I feel like both of you guys have talked about this idea of almost being true to yourself in different ways, like being true to yourself with your design and your technique, but also in your approach to making. And it's just so much better when we are, isn't it? When we're not forcing things, when we're just following what feels natural to us. So yeah, love that. Brilliant. And Laura-Jayne, do you want to share a bit about your journey into jewelry making and what you do now?
No.
I thought you said no. No, don't want to do that.
No, it's been a day. It's been a day. No. Yeah, I mean, again, it's not really been a particularly traditional route in for me, if I'm honest. I did do a design degree at university, what feels like about 150 years ago now. But at the time, I didn't actually do anything related to jewellery, which was quite frankly ridiculous, because the university I was at had a fantastic silversmithing and jewellery department, but it was something that I'd never realised you could do as a job, so I didn't realise it was there. So after leaving university, I immediately fell into a career that was 100% nothing to do with my degree. I think a lot of people did that at that point. It was you've got a degree so you can get a good job kind of thing. But after having my daughter, who is now 18, I sort of thought, I feel like I'm a bit lost with not having anything creative to do. I'm not sure what I want to do. And I started to do some like beadwork again, which I'd always enjoyed doing when I was a lot younger, which is, as anybody on this call knows, a complete gateway into many, many other things. And I've kind of dotted around and done a few different things. And then I was really lucky that we have a fantastic craft college not very far from me. And I went off and I took myself on a 2-day soldering course. And that was it. That was the bug. And that was probably, 10, 15 years ago now. And yeah, I've kind of taught myself a lot. I've done a few short courses. A bit like him, I really love the problem solving side of things. Also a bit like him, and everybody at Jewellers Academy knows, I 100% love all the tools, all of them. I have a special place in my heart for every single one of my tools, and there are many. So yeah, I just think it's such a wide ability, wide abilities people of any kind of ability can get in and do some jewellery making. And that is one of the beautiful things about the way that Jewellers Academy is set up. We cater to abilities from absolute complete beginners to people who are now learning to do things like pavé setting and channel setting, which are incredibly advanced. So yeah, it's a joy to watch people develop.
Absolutely. And I think Laura-Jayne has been crowned the tool queen a number of times, because every time she comes and does more filming, she's like bought these new tools that no one's ever even heard of. And it's like, oh my goodness, how are more tools being developed? But super useful ones, and also not that expensive. A lot of the time it's like, oh, I found a way to make it myself, and it's not actually, super out of anyone's budget. So that's always useful as a jeweler to have those kind of tips and ideas. And I love you speaking about the accessibility. And I think all of us really care about that here in terms of, most of our journeys, at some point along the way, someone sort of put a block in the way and said no. And we're like, we've just walked around it. And so we're really passionate about helping anyone who's got any block. And blocks can be anything, they can be in our own minds, just sort of not being sure whether we can do it or not. Or they can be something physical, money, time, all of these things. So it's always inspiring to hear people who've just, I guess we have the passion. So we're like, we're going to find a way. And I think that's the case with any path that you follow. So awesome. Thank you. And last but not least, April, do you want to come and share a little bit about your journey into jewelry making and what you do now?
Yeah. It's interesting, the conversation, isn't it? Because I think I've kind of rolled into it in a way. I've always been a creative person, so much like the others. I like illustration, photography, and I've sort of tried a bit of everything. But it was in the art foundation, really, just before university, that kind of jewelry got put in front of me. I didn't even realize actually that you could do it as a degree. So at that stage, I was looking for what I wanted to do at university because I knew I wanted to go. At one point it was going to be photography, and then it was graphic design. Anyway, so in the art foundation, we explored a lot of different mediums, and I was doing quite creative, like catwalk style pieces. So it's kind of funneled down, I would say, to where I am today in terms of style and evolution, and the things that I've been exposed to in my jewelry journey. But yeah, it sort of started in the art foundation. I went to uni at Middlesex and did a 4-year degree in jewelry design. And then after that, I worked in some jewelry workshops in Norfolk, where I am. And that was kind of a natural thing after going, completing my degree, go and get the job. And I was quite lucky, really, to get a bench position and a position in the shop as well. So I learned a lot more in the sort of business sense and the fine jewelry side of things. And that's kind of where I've carried it on from then. I've kind of just rolled with it in a sense. I've gone with what I've enjoyed at that point and kind of followed the things that you fall in love with, and like you were saying, Laura-Jayne, the tools and things like that. There's so much you can get exposed to, isn't there, that you kind of connect with, and there's so much to learn. So yeah, kind of now I have my own business making bespoke fine jewelry. So yeah, it's kind of gone from quite broad, I'm a creative person, down to a real niche over the last sort of 10 or 15 years or so. Don't know how long it's been, lost count. So yeah.
Yeah, and your work's incredible, April. I mean, everyone's work is, and I think it is really nice to start honing down and finding that niche, because it can start quite overwhelming, can't it? But especially when you discover that you love, if you're a creative person, you love everything creative. That's so many things.
Mm-hmm.
And then I know for me, I had to narrow down quite early that it was going to be jewelry, because even within that, it's a whole world. And then even within jewelry, it's like at some point we need to kind of narrow it down as well. And I like what Laura-Jayne was saying about beading being the gateway. The gateway. That was the same for me. I kind of decided that I wanted to work for myself, but had no skills in anything because I was still quite young and hadn't done a degree. And I was like, oh, what can I do? What do I want to do? And I decided I was going to be a jeweler before I'd made any jewelry or had any clue. I was just like, I know this is what I want to do. I need to figure out how to do it. And so and started with the beading, and then the kind of silver jewelry making, and then went into metal clay, started teaching metal clay. And then people started saying, can you teach these other things? And I was like, no, I can't, but I know someone who can. And that's kind of where I got started as well. So I love hearing even just snippets of different stories, because we've all come from, in a way, such different journeys, but we're all doing this as what we do, or as at least part of what we do. And I'm sure that you guys listening can relate to some little bits and pieces, or can recognize some of your journeys in those as well. Brilliant. Okay, so mentoring. Let's have a little chat about mentoring. I'd love to know from you guys what do you enjoy about mentoring? What's some of your favorite things? Again, Kim, maybe you can kick us off because I know you like mentoring. Not just here, but generally it's like part of who you are, I feel.
I keep, because both you and Laura-Jayne have mentioned beading, I keep regularly thinking most other things, if you think of things like beading, knitting, crochet, most other things, you learn how to do it and then that's it. And even if there's more complicated steps, that's it. And it's not like that with jewelry silversmithing. So maybe things like pottery or to a certain extent baking are the same, where the science is super important, because as soon as one little variable changes, the way somebody's told you to do something just isn't going to work. And I always think, like, I've been doing this nearly 30 years and I'm still learning on a daily basis. So I think that's why the mentoring is so important, because it's 100% possible to learn self-directed. And we're living in an amazing time and we've got all the YouTube videos and so much access to stuff and free things and books and everything at our fingertips. But there's so many blooming little variables that just throw a spanner in the works. And in terms of when I'm doing my mentoring, it's mostly the sort of, well, yes, that's how we normally do it, but because of X, Y, and Z, and because you've got the specific setup, this is why it's not working. And then we dig down and get to the bottom of what's causing the issue. And especially when you're newer, that's a lot of an ask for someone. I always say you've got to be like Sherlock Holmes and you've got to sort of, really look at things and work backwards and investigate. But having a good mentor fast tracks that bit and just helps boost your learning.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it's so true that the world of jewelry making, like we're always learning. I can't imagine that I'll ever get to the point where I know everything in jewelry. I just don't think it's possible. And I remember saying to a teacher once, like, I was enjoying my class so much. I was like, oh, I just feel like there's not enough time to learn everything. And I must have been like 20. And he was like 16. He looked at me and he was like, there's just enough time. Very like Buddhist kind of. I was like, oh, okay, that's a calming thing. But I think you're right, and it's those little things. It is the little things, and it's not even something that you could put into a course in terms of the mentoring. Because if we could, we'd be like, it's fine, we put it into another course. But it's that direct feedback, isn't it? Of oh yes, this is 80% of the picture, but the other 20% for you, which is different for X, Y, and Z, is this. And that tailored feedback, I think, is just invaluable. So awesome. Michael, what do you love about mentoring?
Yeah, I mean, I love tutoring and love sort of passing the knowledge on. It's lovely when you kind of see that spark when a student gets it, and you think, oh yeah, and it's about kind of I with my work I kind of and the way I teach is I try to get to know the student, they're kind of what they're good at, what they're not so good at, and try and encourage them to kind of predict what things could happen with the work, and then react to it as opposed to just pulling your hair out and just kind of just stopping. So yeah, mine. I don't know. It's been more of a fluid kind of way of teaching. You kind of adapt to the kind of students' needs. That's the way I kind of. Yeah, so it's kind of very very sort of fluid.
Yeah, it reminds me of kind of like a relationship in a way. It's not, you're listening, you're hearing, you're understanding, you're reflecting back. And I think a lot of what students get and what I get when I'm mentored is confidence in what I already know as well. And kind of just like, oh yeah, I kind of know that this is an area that I need to work on and that I'm stronger here. But somebody saying it, something about somebody saying it to you, especially someone further along the journey, that you're like, okay, now I know for sure. So it can sometimes be a little bit of that validation as well, which we all need, I think, especially when we're working on our own at home and we're going on a really big journey like these diplomas, especially if you do like all three or all four. That's a huge growth journey to be doing independently. So one of our hopes is that you feel really connected, not just to the group and to the program, but to your mentor as well, that you can ask them anything, you know, they'll do their best to help. And I think what you spoke to a little bit, Michael, was this idea of teaching independence as well, so that you can help them have the tools so that we don't always feel like we need to ask all the time as well, that we're like, actually, I can figure this out because I kind of got, you know, I've kind of done it before. And there's so much problem solving in jewelry making, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Brilliant. Alrighty. And Laura-Jayne, what do you like about mentoring?
I mean, I think it's you know, it's very similar to Kim and Michael and what they've already said around being able to just kind of really help out people and help them to be the best that they can be and feel comfortable and confident in their own abilities. I think quite a lot of the time, because I mentored from the foundation, you know, all the way up to the fine diploma, and it's always lovely to see people's confidence catching up to their abilities, because I think we're always our own worst critics. And a lot of times people are so much better than they will give themselves credit for. I also really like being able to help people out with those little shortcuts and things that I wish I'd have known, and I'd have had someone to go, do you know what, if you just do this, you don't need to do all of those steps, because then that just makes your life a bit easier, right? Yeah, and it's just really lovely to see people grow. I mean, I've had the real privilege of watching people go through all three of the diplomas, from the silver diploma all the way through to finishing the advanced diploma, and that has been just fantastic. Something that I always say to, when I was mentoring on the silver diploma, to my silver students was, before you send in your final project right at the end of term 3, what I'd like you to do is pull out the very first thing that you made in week 1 of term 1, because you're still picking apart your work at this stage, but you put them next to each other and you just see how far you've come. And it is just fantastic to see the confidence and the ability and, you know, that skill that people pick up, and then they can just carry on and do amazing things. So for me, that's the big thing, just helping people to kind of realize that journey.
Yeah, I love that. The transformation, isn't it? It's the
Huge.
and seeing it, and we're so lucky that we get to see it. I think it is a real privilege, you know, to be part of that, and especially like you said, when people really go through quite a lot. And I remember when we used to do this, well, we do it in person again now, but when we first started, it was in person, and it was like the person went through the diploma, but so did their whole family, you know. It was like, it affects everything in a way, because when you're so passionate about something, it's a journey that everyone's going on, so it doesn't only benefit that person, but it kind of benefits everyone. And just seeing how it kind of, you know, inspired potentially their children if they had them, or their partners, or, you know, whoever they were connected to, or just could see them light up when they were doing what they loved. And I think, you know, we can forget the kind of effect that we have on others, but it seemed to have this really positive ripple effect. And I think as mentors, we kind of get a bit of that too. And yeah, absolutely love seeing the transformation. I think it inspires me as well, because I'm like, well, if you've done all of that, I can keep going as well. So it's this kind of connectedness that really, really helps. And I agree, when we watch people go through that journey, it's just great to be there and to be able to support that. So awesome work. And April, what about you? What do you love about mentoring?
I think the biggest thing for me probably is the ability to be able to give back in some way. So if I look at my journey and how lucky I've been to sort of learn from so many different people in different environments and things, it's really rewarding to be able to give that back to people, whether that's, you know, skill-based, or even just, as everyone else has said, sort of in a confidence way, you know, building confidence through support, just looking back at the experiences that I've had and thinking I was in your shoes at one point, and I know how you're feeling, and it's all going to be okay. Don't worry, because I've been there, done that, and it's going to be fine. So it's quite nice to be able to, sort of take from your own journey and sort of use that to support and help others. I think that's probably the most rewarding thing about mentoring for me. I think being able to share those tips and tricks again, like everyone else is saying, that's really rewarding. And again, that journey from sort of when people start their journey towards the end, the progress is almost unbelievable, really. And that's not only, again, in the skills side of things, but also in the confidence too. So they go hand in hand, I think.
Absolutely. And I think it's amazing that you want to give back, all of the mentors that do this, because I know it was maybe 20 years or so ago, but when I first started, that wasn't really the attitude that I experienced in Jewellers. It was kind of like, well, I'm not, it's very cards close to your chest. Like, this is my technique. So, and I remember finding that so strange. I was like, so who taught you? And it was like, this kind of like, let's gatekeep everything, which I just didn't understand. So I love that has changed generally in the industry, but I think particularly in our community, we tend to attract people who are just like, I can't wait to share this with someone else. Like I can't wait to see what they do with it. And I guess it's having that security in your own work and in your own process that you're just happy to be able to pass it on to the next generation of jewelers, which is brilliant. And I think, Laura-Jayne, something that you spoke to a little bit is this inner self-critic, which we all have. And I love that you pointed out that we have it in the foundation and we also have it in the advanced diploma. So I think there's a myth that like, when I get good enough, I won't criticize myself anymore. But in my experience, in myself, but also working with jewelers who are like the top of their game and they're still critical of themselves, I'm like, wow, this really is like an inside job. This is really like a kind of mindset thing. And so I think that the mentors really help with that as well, that the self-confidence that we're talking about. It may sound kind of wishy-washy, but actually it's essential to get through the challenging parts of not just this course, but being a jeweler. So I think that you guys do an amazing job of that. Awesome. Okay, so moving on to the diploma, the next question I want to ask is, why would you recommend students choose to take a diploma? And if you want to talk a bit about the diploma you mentor on, you can as well. I'm going to keep with the routine because I'm a routine person. I hope that's okay. Sorry, Kim, you're like landed on the first one, but I'm sure you can handle it. But why would you recommend students take a diploma? And if you want to share anything about the silver diploma, then feel free to.
So I did a 3-year full-time degree, Monday to Friday, full-time hours. Absolutely loved it, don't get me wrong. And like I said previously, I graduated at the top of my course, which I'm very happy about. I didn't learn very much because a huge amount of most degrees is about the supporting studies. So you've got your art history, you've got your conceptual practice, you've got your design development, which is related, but it's not directly related to your technical skills. And Jess, when you and Laura-Jayne were talking about being privileged to see the journey, I always think one of the reasons we get to see that is because Jewellers Academy are really fast tracking that journey. Because I always tell everybody that what the students cover on the silver diploma in one academic year is way more than what I covered in my full-time 3-year degree. It is crazy, but it's achievable. And the way it's laid out as well, it's really sequential. So it makes sense. You start, at A, and then each new week you're building on those skills in a really logical way. And again, if you're learning, self-directed, or you're going to community classes or private tuition, you can still learn a lot, but more often than not, that's what's missing. It's that sequential step-by-step learning that makes sense so that you're progressing really, really well. In terms of the remote tuition, the thing that I really like that Michael was talking about is sometimes students are sort of umming and ahhing, is like, surely it'd be better to be in a classroom environment. And it's great now that the Jewellers Academy are offering both. But I think one of the really good things about doing it remote is that you are supported to learn how to become more independent, because as soon as you leave a classroom environment, you're on your own. And it's that critical thinking and the problem solving. And like Michael said, it's reacting, looking at specifically what is happening with your materials and reacting and learning from that, rather than just what we all want to do is go, oh my God, it's melted, it's terrible, I can't do this, which is fine in the moment, but it doesn't help your progress and your learning. And again, in terms of how the Jewellers Academy Silver Diploma is laid out, and in terms of how the support is laid out, it really helps people achieve, or at least work towards, those things. Yeah, the main thing is just, I can't believe the value for money. It's crazy how much gets fitted in while still being achievable.
Yeah, I mean, I love hearing that because it's like, we create all the courses and it all goes out there, and it's just wonderful to see how it's being used, I think, and what people are doing with it. And I agree with you, Kim. I think doing a degree is great when you're at the age that you want to do a degree, and it's a lifestyle, and there's loads of things you learn in terms of academic and friendships and all of that. But we used to get a lot of people from the degrees come to jewelry school and say, oh, I've not set a stone before. And I think, but you've done a jewelry degree, what have you been doing?
I did no stone setting. No stone setting, no beading, no wire working skills, no kiambu, no granulation, no metal clay. Like, I think half of what's included in the silver diploma I didn't do during my degree.
Yeah, it's a very different offering, I suppose. And I know, like, when I started out and decided I was going to be a jeweler, I was like, well, I need to learn how to make things that I want to make, but also that are going to sell. So I need to know how to set stones. I need to know how to work with metal. I need to solder. I need to polish and finish well. So I love that we can teach those skills in a way that's accessible for people to do whatever stage of life you're at, and whatever your lifestyle is. We have lots of people who have young children at home, or perhaps who are carers and are fitting it around other things, or perhaps have a bit of time to themselves now and want to be able to do this, or don't live anywhere near a jewelry school. So it is wonderful. And the silver diploma in particular, it's our most popular diploma, and it attracts the most people, and it's just amazing to kind of watch them go through that journey, and for us to get to be part of it as well. So awesome. Thanks, Kim. So Michael, why would you recommend a student take one of the diplomas? And perhaps you can talk a bit about the diploma that you mentor on as well.
So I teach the fine jewelry diploma, and one of the things I was going to mention is what Laura-Jayne mentioned earlier, is the difference between term 1 and then term 3 is absolutely enormous. Because you start off and it's a few technical challenges, and then term 3 is a lot more technical, and then term 2, and then term 3 it's very sort of technical. But the difference and growth between term 1 and term 3 is amazing. Because I really encourage, because finishing, and I try to encourage this with all the students I teach, is finishing jewelry, because you can make it, and it depends on if you're rushed for time, but you can make it, and then if you don't spend the time finishing it, or you don't put your finishing hat on, I always call that, you can end up ruining a piece. So you need to kind of step back and then really analyze what's going on with your piece, and then finish it to the best ability that you can at that moment. But with the fine jewelry, there's a lovely little project right at the end where you've got to design your own kind of collection, and it's a cohesive collection of three pieces. And I start in term 1 for you to kind of start collecting imagery, starting to get sketchbooks, starting just pathways for you to recognize what you like and you gravitate towards. So you're not sort of, because through these courses, through these projects, you kind of you do this, and this, and hopefully you'll end up with this. But with the project right at the end, it's you hopefully employ the things you've learned through this pathway, through this journey in the fine jewelry, and you end up, and some of the results are just incredible. An incredible term last year. Really, really beautiful pieces.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think what I love about the fine diploma is usually it's the second year, and the students are really starting to find their own style. And I think you help a lot with that, Michael, in terms of, you know, encouraging thinking about final projects from the beginning. And we do ask that the final project, to the best of your ability, is in your own signature style, which I know is an ongoing journey for a jeweler. But it's like you just get upgraded in terms of this new set of skills, like you said, that you can do a lot more technical making. And there'll be some pieces that you do and think, I'm never doing that again, which is also great to know. Tennis bracelet. No, I'm just teasing. And then there's other pieces that you're like, oh my gosh, this is me. I found it. This is like, and then I can start running with it. And I think the 3-piece collection is such a kind of encapsulation of where the jewelers are at that stage. And it's sometimes hard for us to see, like, if we're the jeweler, how far we've come, but the mentors, we can see, because we're like, do you remember when you started and we started having discussions around what you were going to do and you weren't sure, and now this has kind of come to fruition. So it's almost maturing as a jeweler as well as improving the technical ability, which is always lovely to see. And
Absolutely.
The dedication required to see the years through as well is always inspiring.
Yeah.
Brilliant. And Laura-Jayne, why would you recommend students choose to take a diploma?
So I think all of the above, all of the things that Kim and Michael have already explained around the way that it's laid out, and the fact that it is very much like building blocks. It gives you a really good toolkit of skills as you go. And even though you don't necessarily like the style of some projects, tennis bracelet, as Jess has said, the technical, the technicality of it and how it's put together means that you've then got another little tool in your kit that you'll be able to actually use in a different way, in a very, it can be in a very, very different way. I think one of the major benefits, though, of the way that things are put together with the academy is that sense of accountability. Because if you're anything like me, you will probably have bought lots of online courses, and you may even have started them. And if you are that way inclined, potentially you've finished them, but that's not me. And that's not to say that you can't, do the diploma and then something may or may not happen and you might end up finishing it in your own time. And, the other thing is you've got lifetime access, which is fantastic, because there are other things where you only get access to the videos for like 3 months. And it's like, okay, I might not have time to do it. When do I go back? So you've got that lifetime access. The other really great thing is that Jess is so incredibly generous that whenever we kind of put new courses into the diplomas, that if you've already had the diploma in the past, you'll get access to those, new courses. So there's always new content. There's always something fresh. And there's a huge sense of community. So we've got, as mentors, we have small groups within the cohort. You get face-to-face time with us every 2 weeks. You get a one-to-one with us every term as just an hour-long one-to-one to talk about things. You also get your marking calls with us, so you get that feedback. But you've got the community of your peers within the cohort that you're in. You've got the wider community of the entire Jewellers Academy group, and we're all basically going to just be cheerleading for you. So yeah, there are so many benefits, so many benefits to coming on board with Jewellers Academy. Yeah, and I'm very, very happy that I kind of found it and found a home here. So yeah.
Oh, we're very happy as well, Laura-Jayne, that you're part of the crew. But yeah, it's true, and we're all super passionate. Like it's just this is what we love doing, and we all get to do it together, which is just awesome. But yeah, I love what you said about the accountability. I think that for many, that is one of the main draws of doing a program like this, especially when you've spent, you know, a sizable amount of money and you're dedicating time, and it's like puts the pressure on a little bit in a good way, you know, to actually kind of complete something. And we're super proud that our diplomas have more than a 99% completion rate, which is unheard of for an online course. Like, and I think it's because it's not just an online course like you spoke about, Laura-Jayne. It is a community. You will be checked up on in the nicest way. You will have time with your mentor. You'll have your little groups where they often end up, you know, potentially meeting up sometimes if you're in the same country. And it's like your little crew, and you can talk to each other and kind of build relationships. And I think they're the things that after the course, like, yes, you can come back to all the course material and there'll be updates, which is brilliant. But those kind of relationships that you're building, the networking that you're doing within the industry is almost priceless, because, you know, years and years later, they're still your jewelry buddies and the people that understand when you've accidentally spent too much on a tool, or when a customer's complained about something that, you know, wasn't your fault, and all of these kind of things. So so many kind of intangible aspects. I love that you spoke about the community as well. Brilliant. And April, what would you say about the diplomas? You're the mentor on the Fine Diploma as well. Yeah, what are your thoughts on people kind of considering joining?
Yeah, so I think there's just such a mix of projects in the Fine Diploma, and I know that applies to the other ones as well. But with this one in particular, I think there's such a variety, and there's a good mix of more kind of accessible sort of projects where you might look at it and think, yep, that's in my wheelhouse. That one, I think, you know, I don't know how to do it, but I feel, you know, quite confident starting that. Whereas you're sort of on the other end of the scale with some of them, like the tennis bracelet, that look completely scary, but in a good way, you know, in that kind of attractive, I really want to do that kind of way. And it's great because everyone you know, they do it and they do get through it. So from speaking to the students throughout the years, a lot of them are saying, you know, I looked at that project and I thought, I'm never going to be able to do that. And they do, and they're amazed at the end when they do it. And what I love, especially from start to finish with the Fine Diploma, is the confidence again that grows just from the amount of soldering you've got in the Fine Diploma is quite astounding. But when you get towards the end, the confidence and the sort of skill level is improved just from doing, you know, the amount of solder joints that you go through in these projects, as one example anyway. And I think, as Michael said, with the final project, I think at this stage in the Fine Diploma, you're sort of at a stage where, at least I like to try and encourage a little bit of thinking outside the box. There's quite a bit of creativity that can be applied with some of the skills and techniques that you've learned in the diploma, but also trying to think within your own practice, how can you push the boundaries a little bit. So it's definitely a challenging one, but in a really good way, I think, the Fine Diploma for sure. And again, as Laura-Jayne was saying, you know, having the community there, I think, is a huge one, especially for me as a mentor. The online Zoom calls and things, one of my favourite parts, and throughout the structure, throughout the diploma, I think, because we all get together and you know, we have a bit of a laugh and we have a bit of a you know, how you're getting on, and everyone can relate to each other, and there's a bit of a reassurance from student to student and mentor to student, and there's some handy tips that are always kind of picked up and pointed out. So those Zoom calls, I think, are really lovely to kind of get involved in, and just the accountability again, I think that's quite a nice thing to have in there too. So yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. I love when you're talking about the breadth of the projects. What I always get excited about when someone joins any of the diplomas is like the portfolio they're going to leave with. Because however stressful those pieces were to make or enjoyable, there's mixture. And you never know which one's going to be easy or hard. Sometimes you think that one's easy, and then you get into it and it's just not your day. And other pieces look really hard, and you're like, actually, I kind of got this. But at the end, you have this portfolio which you can share. And I think it was Kim maybe that was talking about this idea, like if you want to work somewhere else, or even for clients, what people are most interested in is not if you've got a diploma or if you've got a degree or certificate. It's what have you made? Show me your pieces, and just having those pieces that you have made, and not just that you could make, but you actually have made, so you've got them, is really valuable to growing a business or to going to work for a jeweler, because you can show them whether it's online or in person. And I know whenever I'm sort of hiring a jeweler or anything, the first thing I say is I want to see your jewelry, partly because it's fun for me, but also it shows me where they're at and what they've been up to and who they are and a bit of their personality. So I think building that portfolio is a big part of what we do here as well. And just to mention very briefly about the advanced diploma, because our advanced diploma mentors are on other calls tonight. But that's obviously just the next kind of level. And what I personally love about it is the micro setting, setting lots of little stones. It's very addictive. Who knew? Very satisfying. Also, there's a lot more work with kind of gravers and, using different tools to be able to create, again, just kind of more elevated styles and options in your jewelry. And I think as you develop as a jeweler, whether you end up doing that kind of work or not, knowing how to do it is a really kind of a power move because it means that should you want to put it into a design, or should somebody ask you to, or if you want to create higher end work, then you've got those options. Obviously, if anyone wants to know more about that course, we can share, but just give it a shout out while we're here as well. And of course, the metal clay diploma as well. Oh, sorry. Anna has just reminded me that Laura is on the advanced diploma. I apologize, Laura.
Fine. I'm all over the place, aren't I? So, yeah.
Laura's on every diploma, every course.
I am. I think I might be.
Laura, do you want to share any thoughts on the advanced from your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, watching the approach that the advanced students take to kind of that working out of what they're going to be doing, and seeing where they're up to and seeing the kind of real great problem solving skills that they're putting into practice is fantastic. And for some of the people that are on the advanced, they've come all the way through from the silver diploma all the way through. Some of them have kind of stepped in at the fine diploma level and then have gone on to the advanced diploma. We start looking at a lot of, more, like Jess has said, more advanced techniques. So like some fantastic stone setting, there's all the stone setting that you could potentially want going on in there, but also then there's some really fun, completely out of the box projects, and Michael has got one of those on the advanced, and it's that catwalk statement jewelry piece which really starts to push the students to completely think outside of the box and not thinking about traditional materials, and seeing the beauty in a non-traditional material. And it's so much fun to see. It's so much fun to watch. And yes, there are some frustrations because they are quite tricky projects, not going to lie. But then the sense of satisfaction at the end of them, fantastic, absolutely fantastic. And we have some amazing tutors on the advanced course. Amazing industry, right up there. Amazing people, and all incredibly generous with their time and their knowledge.
We have the best people, don't we? We're so lucky, including all of you guys. Just have the best. Love it, because we have great jewelers, but they also have to be nice people, because there are some great jewelers who don't quite make the grade. So we got the great jewelers who are also awesome. Yes, thank you, Laura-Jayne, and apologies for my memory lapse in who's where. Yes, but the final shout out, because I don't think there are any mentors from this diploma, is the metal clay diploma, which is kind of in a league of its own, and is also an incredible option depending on, you know, what your journey is going to look like. I always think the metal clay diploma is great for the real creative types who really just want to express themselves, because clay is so fluid that you can really make it your own. And I also think that metal clay is brilliant for teaching, because we always need more people teaching silver metal clay, because it's still a fairly new medium. And I know I struggle to find teachers for that, whereas, you know, the traditional sort of silver and goldsmithing industry has been going for a lot longer. And also, I just think it suits certain personality types. Like if you prefer, rather than like the hammering and the, you know, the kind of hardness of the metal, which I love. I mean, I love it all. It's a softer, it's a gentler process, and it's potentially more organic. And in my opinion, there's not a better or worse. It's just, well, I just love everything in jewelry making. Too many things, also wax, all the things. But yeah, I find people either lean towards one or the other often. And if that speaks to you, you know, we have some incredible mentors on that program as well. And I think we're going to do a separate kind of session with them too. So brilliant. Next question, because I know lots of people on these calls have already signed up and are just excited to go. Do you guys have any tips for students who are starting in September on your course? What can they do to get the most out of it? Or is there anything you can reassure them around, or, you know, things that you often say to students, I guess? So any tip for anybody starting perhaps a silver diploma in September, Kim? What would be your advice?
I think the biggest thing is just reminding yourself that we are all here to support you and make things as fun and easy as possible, while also getting you a really good grounding and knowledge base. But the only way you get a really good grounding and knowledge base is by making lots of mistakes. But our natural instinct is to treat a mistake as something awful and be discouraged by it, but they're so, so important. And again, like Michael's saying, if it's about trying to think backwards and figure out why that thing happened. And if you can do that, then you're making amazing progress. And if you can't do that, but you can make a little note of it and then have a chat about it in the group calls or in your one-to-one, then you're making amazing progress. And I always say, every time you sit at your bench, if you learn something, you know, good, bad, indifferent, you're making amazing progress. It's not all about everything being super spangly, because we want you going away as confident as possible. If you have some super shiny jewelry at the end of the silver one, that's a nice bonus. But if you have a really good fundamental knowledge, that's just going to serve you so well moving on with whatever you choose to do next.
I feel like you're saying we don't have to be perfect straight away. What? I don't understand.
This goes against everything jewelers are inclined to do. We're perfectionists. And we want everything to be perfect.
Yeah, we want to look at tiny details and for that to be perfect as well, with a magnifying glass, and for that to be perfect. So yeah, couldn't agree more. You know, the mistakes, we learn obviously so much more from our mistakes. And we always say to people, if you're not making any mistakes, you're probably on the wrong course, because you can already do it. So, you know, it's better to make the mistakes here with us, so we can help you, than to just fly through it all and potentially not learn as much. So yeah, pushing yourself to go outside the comfort zone, make the mistakes and move through it is definitely part of the journey, for sure. Michael, what tip would you give to anyone who's joining the Fine Diploma in September?
Just try and enjoy it. Don't get too stressful about it. I think timing throughout all these courses is important. I know kind of life gets in the way, but if you allocate, okay, I'm going to do, someday I've got free and I'm going to sit down and I think a lot of people do get caught out sometimes when things get in the way, but it's about, I think timing is important. throughout this and planning it out. But also, you know, I get them to kind of question things as they go along and develop. Question things how things are made, because, you know, 1,000 jewelers have got 1,000 different ways of making, you know, jewelry. So, and I hope to try and, you know, dig out the way you kind of work and the way you kind of the pathway you kind of go down. But I think it's just to enjoy it, just to really enjoy it, and don't be afraid of kind of, because we've all been, it's like we all said, we've all been like in that boat. We've all kind of made these mistakes. I made a right old balls up the other day with a 9-carat ring, and yeah, it was, so it's always ongoing. You're never. I don't believe in perfection. I always believe in what you're doing the best you can at that particular time. So it's I think it's just enjoy the project.
I love that. And maybe it's mean to say that I love that you still make mistakes, Michael.
Oh no, God.
That's a very, very helpful to hear, because it's like, it's okay, you know, it's okay. So brilliant. Laura-Jayne, what tip would you give to someone who's joining the advanced diploma?
Oh, so you're probably already going to have a really good grounding. If you haven't, then being brutally honest, the advanced diploma is not the one for you, because you'll kind of lose confidence in yourself, and that is 100% the last thing that we want to happen. So, you know, just make sure that you're choosing the right diploma. I feel like it's a lot more almost independent learning, but supported, very, very supported independent learning when it comes to the advanced, just because of the type of projects that you're doing. They're a little bit more free form. They're not necessarily quite so prescriptive. There will never, ever, ever only be one way of doing things. Yeah, and yeah, it's just patience, just patience, and also just be kind to yourself. If something goes wrong, I can guarantee that it's gone wrong for everybody else as well. Some people will just never admit that they make mistakes, and I don't think they're the best teachers, if I'm honest. If someone can't admit that they've made a mistake, then I don't think I'd want to be learning from them, because I don't think I'd actually trust them. So there's that.
Yeah, and that makes me think of the Facebook groups as well, and trying not to compare, because sometimes we've made 58 mistakes, and then we finally get there and we share it on the Facebook group, and it's like, oh, I've done it, and someone else will look and be like, oh my goodness, they did it right first time. So just remember, we can't see everyone's journey in full. So hopefully you can use the Facebook group to encourage and inspire you, and not to compare, because everyone starts at a different place as well. Everyone's got different life circumstances.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. One of the things that I have said, and my students will have heard me say it, and other people around Jewellers Academy have heard me say it, is that comparison is the thief of joy. So don't fall into that trap. Yeah. Do the best that you can do, and be really proud that you're even considering giving this a go, because that in itself, massive step. And there are several people out there who would never even take that step forward. So you're already ahead of other people. So, you know, well done.
Awesome. Thank you, Laura-Jayne. And April, what would you say to somebody who is joining us for September?
Yeah, so I think similar, really. So I'd just say, don't put too much pressure on yourself, and be kind to yourself, really. You'll sort of adapt as you go along, I think. Because, you know, when we start something new, we might have an expectation, we might not, and you'll sort of flow with it as it goes, and you'll learn sort of the structure of things and how things work. And I think it's good to just adapt as you go along. I'd say be as organised as you can be as a person, because we're all different. You know, we might be working around things in life, whether it's children or current work situations, anything. So I would say, if you can try and be as organised as you can to start with, that will help sort of going forward, as Michael was saying, with your time management and things like that. Because I have found, I think if you end up getting too behind, it can be a bit more tricky to kind of get that momentum back and catch up. So if you can sort of be organised in the sense of trying your best as possible to plan in some time, or if you're unable to sort of set aside a specific time, then just know that perhaps you may be catching up around other things, just to try and keep on track. And watch the videos, and don't be afraid to do things slightly differently. I think Laura-Jayne was saying that, you know, that isn't the absolute prescribed way to do it. Set it up however feels right for you, and don't be afraid to do that and experiment and just go with what feels right. And I think you'll end up sort of enjoying it a lot more then, rather than putting too much pressure on.
I love that. They say like diamonds are formed under pressure, but I don't think that's true. Well, it is scientifically true, but I think that actually not having pressure is where the magic happens, when we can take that off and just be in our sort of flow, and just when we can get in that state and just enjoy the making, a bit like, Michael was saying as well. And I love what you said about there's different ways to do things. And I think something that's great across all the diplomas is you'll learn from so many different teachers. So you'll be exposed to different ways, and you might be like, I love soldering this way. I don't like soldering that way that this other person's done it. So I'm going to stick to how I'm doing it. And the good news is there's no diploma police coming around saying you didn't do it like in the video. It's all about you and your journey and learning. And we never want to be punitive or punishing or any of that. That's not the vibe here. So yeah, it's a brilliant kind of thing to mention. And we are coming kind of to the end of the time of the session today, but it's been so helpful to hear from you guys. Thank you so much for sharing about your journeys and the diploma, and hopefully everyone listening can see just how awesome the team is that we get to work with. And the deadline to sign up for a diploma this year, if you haven't done it yet, is on Friday the 13th of June. Memorable date, at least. And it's like a few weeks away, which is crazy. I don't know how it's like nearly the middle of June. So do make sure you get signed up before then. We would love to welcome you. And maybe we can leave on a final question. I'm just going to ask you, Kim, because we don't have time to go around again. So sorry that you got thrown in it again. But what would you say to anyone who's kind of considering joining a diploma but is on the fence and maybe needs that little bit more encouragement? What would your advice be?
I think something that kind of speaks for itself is I've had multiple in-person students in my own studio who've enjoyed classes and we get on well. They've chosen to sign up to the diploma, and then after the diploma they come back, because it is community, and it's not always about not having a good fit with a local tutor or feeling as if you're on your own and you need to build the community from scratch. It is that fast track when you want to really hone your skills in a short space of time. And I just think that's lovely that it's secular, and the amount of times when new people join courses and I log into calls if I'm covering or something and I know people. So yeah, definitely the community. And for anyone who's considering a degree and like you said, they're not as bothered about the lifestyle and the full experience of doing that most of us maybe do when we're sort of 18, this is an amazing alternative, and way cheaper and way more condensed.
Yeah, awesome. And I love that people come to your studio and then do a diploma. And I love the collaboration as well. I think, it's great that we all get to work together, and it's a small world, jewelry making. You guys will get to know each other. You'll get to know people on other diplomas, and hopefully for many, many years to come, you'll kind of be in perhaps doing fairs together and all sorts of things. So it's just, if you're new, welcome. It's great to have you here, and hopefully we can help you in one of these programs or in the community at large. So yeah, thank you guys so much again for coming. Thank you everyone for being here and for listening. I hope it inspired and encouraged you on your journey, and enjoy the rest of your week. And hopefully we'll see some of you guys in September, if not before. So take care, everyone. Thanks again. Bye.